Coming up, obviously this is not Black History Month, but a store clerk needs to be educated on words to never say to an African American. Let's talk about it, y'all. Welcome to the chat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the chat. I'm Catalina Allures. Henny and Angelia join the panel on this Monday. We've already got the party started before the show started, so it feels like a Friday. So we're just gonna pretend that it's Friday already. Have the best Monday ever. Exactly. All right, well, let's get started because a court case 4 years in the making involving Taylor Swift is finally getting started today. It all stems from a photo event where the singer says former radio DJ David Mueller lifted up her skirt and grabbed her inappropriately in 2013. Mueller says he didn't, but he was fired anyway. He filed a lawsuit in 2015. She countersued, saying she wants this case to serve as an example to other women who may resist publicly reliving similar outrageous and humiliating acts. This was huge when it happened. Now, being in the radio community, I remember it was split. You had people saying there's no way he did it, people that knew him saying that he definitely did it, people saying there's a chance that he didn't do it. But this was massive. And I mean, when Taylor Swift's such a big player in the music industry, that's even if you're joking and maybe he did it, you don't do that with her or anyone for that matter, but especially not someone who has this much money and this kind of influence. Yeah. You know, until this came up recently, I had completely forgot about the whole thing because it's been so since long. 2013. But you know, Taylor Swift, as we know, she stands for something. She's very influential, and as we know, this happened back in 2013. It was a photo op with DJ, and when they were supposed to do 1, 2, 3 cheese, he 1, 2, 3 please on her cheeks. Okay, see, there's his hand. Her booty, that is the photo op, and you see where his hand is. So this is going to be very hard to prove to the court that it was not what she said it was, because your hand is way, way, way too low. He allegedly lifted her skirt and actually touched her flesh, which is way out of line. When it happened, she told the radio executives about it. He got kicked out of the concert. Then he got fired. Then he actually sued her. That is how it got started. He sued her for defamation of character. And she was like, oh, no, brother. I am Taylor Swift. So this is where all this came from. But I think it's all about principle. You know, of course, she was devastated. She was angry. She was hurt. You know, all those emotions that we can relate to as women when a man or another woman, anyone, violates us. So I get that part. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out in civil court. It's not a criminal case. It's a civil case. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
I don't know where my thoughts lie, because I mean, just looking at the photo, it could have been an opportunity where the guy was actually just reaching behind her to do this and got caught on her dress, you know, because her dress was like a little flouncy dress. He could have gotten caught on her dress, like, you know, coming up to like hug her for a photo. So I kind of feel like maybe he was in the right here, and maybe it wasn't his fault. Maybe he wasn't trying to grab her. I mean, with a girlfriend on the other side or with a coworker on the other side. I don't think that,
a girlfriend stop them from doing what they want to do.
I don't know. Well, and the reason that I doubt Taylor Swift's story, I always loved Taylor Swift. I always thought she was the go-to sweet girl next door, and she's always belonged to that narrative of girl next door. And once all that stuff came out with Kanye West, with Calvin Harris,
it damaged her credibility a little bit.
It just did, and I thought, okay, if she lies on social media like this, I mean, the social media thing with Kanye West, of course, I don't know if everybody remembers the story, but that was whenever Kanye said that she knew about the story Famous, and she said she didn't. Well, Kim Kardashian actually was recording it and put it out there later after she wouldn't come clean and say that she did know about it. And then the other thing was Calvin Harris, whenever she was dating him and when they broke up, it was all about him coming clean and saying, you know what, she runs that social media like a scam. There is nothing truthful on there. Paparazzi is called. Everything is fake. There is nothing real about her. And so then I go, I don't know.
But if
now
the DJ
I have
didn't
a hard
really
time
do
believing
it,
her.
But then all of that makes sense, and that's why it's so hard to really have an opinion on this to see, you know, whether he not did it.
He said, she said.
Right, but if he did do it, and and it was one of those cases where, you know, he accidentally brought up the flouncy dress because it was poking out a little bit, wouldn't he immediately apologize?
Maybe he did.
Because no one's mentioned that. I don't know. No one's mentioned that in any of the stories. I don't know. It's really hard to have an opinion on that, because it's like, if he did it, did he apologize? Didn't he apologize? Did he actually do it? Is she too fake? Is she making this up and using her power to maybe put this further than it should?
But he's lost his job.
Exactly,
I mean, that's
and
the
that's
thing.
what
That's
sucks.
the problem, is he's lost his livelihood. And so it wasn't...
And his credibility is shot.
He wasn't just egg on his face. He lost his job and his livelihood. So that's why he had to sue. So, all right. Well, here's something else that's trending today. An anti-diversity manifesto from a member of Google headquarters that has been leaked online. A senior software engineer at the company claimed in a document that was distributed to colleagues that right-wing employees were forced to keep their views in the closet to avoid hostility. He contended that Google doesn't have more female engineers because men have a higher drive for status. The author also says diversity programs tend to alienate conservatives and the gender wage gap is a myth. So Google execs have condemned the documents, calling them completely harmful. So what do you ladies think about this? I think this is an interesting story, right? Leaked documents are ruining a lot of people these days and a lot of companies.
Leaks are just poking holes in everyone's boats these days. Yeah. I mean, the first one that you mentioned, where they want conservatives to kind of hide their views because it could be, they could be treated hostilely. That's really unfortunate. I feel like if they're that worried about conversations in the workplace getting too hostile, especially when it comes to politics, then they should have a policy in place that says don't talk about it, at least at work. The rest of it, it's just a mess. It's just a mess, obviously. I can't.
Okay. I don't know. Well, I mean, what was interesting though is, I mean, I was looking online just to see the woman who's actually running this now, the VP of, I want to say her name is Danielle Brown, and she's the new VP of Diversity, Integrity, and Governance for Google. What company do you know that has a corporation that hires somebody who is a VP of diversity, integrity, and coordinates for a company? I don't know any company who actually does that, who puts somebody in place to make sure that this is taken care of. And this is a division of the company that is overseeing to make sure that these things are in place. I think that's pretty interesting, and it says a lot about Google. So I don't know what's going on with the leaked documents, but this will be interesting to uncover and see exactly what's going on, because they have 3 different divisions that they actually have. They have inclusion, they have diversity, and they have unbiased division. And there's one part of it that it's called Mosaic, and it's a part of the research group that you can go to. It's almost like, we're going to be talking about a cool app later. It's almost like an app within the company, and you can go to it. Whether it's you're looking for Black rights, if you're looking for veterans' rights, if you're looking for anything minority related within the Google corporation, they have a place that you can go there, voice your opinion, you can give feedback. I think it's really interesting. So I like to see somebody like this in Google. So with those leaks coming out, I think they're going to address them and address them pretty heavily from the HR department.
Yeah, because without context, it just looks very fishy. It doesn't look good, like I'm sure it probably is, if this is actually, they've got this VP of diversity. So I think that's what's dangerous about leaks, is if they're leaked without any context and there's nothing wrong actually happening, then you're damaging the reputation for nothing.
And there's no foundation. There's no leg to stand on. So I think they're going to nip this in the bud pretty quickly. Hopefully they do anyway.
They can do it in a second.
All righty. Well, speaking of a second, here's another very interesting opinion about women in the workplace. We're just taking a beating today. So, of course, now they're saying we have to be nice to be successful. According to a new study to be published in the Human Resource Management Journal, for women to be considered confident and influential at work, well, they say she not only must be viewed as competent, but she must also be liked. However, men only need to do well at their jobs to be viewed as confident.
This is just playing the game. This is just playing the game. If you wanna, get by at work and really rise up the ranks, you obviously have to be good at your job. And just because the way that women are treated, not just in workplaces, but in society, if you get mad, if you start to raise your voice even a little, they're like, stop screaming, stop shrieking. We're seen as these banshees.
Or stop being a bee.
Right, exactly. And that's usually what it is. But that's the unfortunate, because a woman who's seen as being a bee is usually really good at it. Can be really good at her job. Like Sheryl Sandberg has probably been called out in the workplace before, but look at where she is. She's one of the highest people at Facebook.
I think it's a form of intimidation. A lot of men in the workplace, when you come in contact with a woman like that, who they say, stop being a bee, she voices her opinion, she's good at what she do, I think that men are intimidated by those types of women.
But I think there's also where you use it. Because if you use it on a constant, I want to choose my words carefully here, because if you voice your opinion too much, too often, then it's not, you're not just a shrieking banshee at work. You kind of become a problem employee, because you're creating too many ripples instead of actually helping fix whatever problems there are in the company. So, I mean, being, you know, a 28-year-old woman 4 years into her career, like, I've had to pick and choose my battles, as any employee should.
Absolutely.
As any employee should.
Well, the article was really about being nice and being helpful. I mean, that's what it was really about. And so men versus women, and men aren't held to the same standard of being nice and helpful as women are. And I'm guilty of this. I ran a spa, a salon, and a gym, of which I had heavily weighted females working for me, but I also had males in each division of that. And so I was guilty of that by asking women to help me stay after. I wasn't asking the men to help me stay after. I wasn't asking because I feel like a woman is the one who's going to do that, who's going to be nice, who's going to be helpful, who's going to be, you know, the one that goes out on a limb to actually help.
Into the trap, I did,
but it's because I'm a woman as well. So I am on the other side going, I would do that. So that's why it came from me thinking a woman would do that versus a man. I mean, men did that as well. I mean, I had one guy who was always very helpful, but being on the other side, it's interesting because I looked at it as my employees exactly the way this article read. I found truth in this. Wow. So I think it's really interesting to see how men versus women in the workplace are treated, but we do expect women to be nice and men not so much. Men can come in with that, you know, stoic look on their face. Women, we need them to smile. We expect them to smile. So it's like, it's just such a double-edged sword, if you will, that we have to face every single day at work. It's really interesting. So
I like that you brought that view in as an employer. That's really, really interesting, and it definitely says something about the way that we treat our employees or even our coworkers. All right, well, speaking of more work issues, because they never end, do you ever feel like you're burnt out? Sometimes extra sleep or even a vacation just won't shake that feeling. So what will? Researchers offer 3 pieces of advice. 1, be optimistic. 2, find meaning in what you do. And 3, double down on relationships, meaning take time despite your stressful job to spend time with friends and family. And researchers say putting relationships on the back burner is the emotional equivalent of being so overworked you stop eating and starve yourself to death. So what do you ladies do to get over the burnt out feeling?
Well, I tell you what, starving ain't one of them.
Emotionally starving yourself, not actual starving. No.
I ain't gonna stop.
Well, we'll make sure we eat. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so this, I don't know if it's the older I get that I fall into this category of being emotionally burnt out, or if it's because of the field that we work in. It can be very demanding at times. At least I know in my position, it can be extremely demanding to the point you'll look up and I'm like, oh my God, I've worked 28 days straight with no day off. And that's when I start to feel burnt out. You've got to do something to recharge yourself, because when I feel burnt out, it makes you feel like I don't feel like going to work today. I don't give them my best because I don't have my best to give them, because I am burnt like a piece of garlic toast.
So then how do you fix it? What do you do to step back?
The first thing I do is take a day off.
Really? Any day off, not even wait for the weekend?
No. If I'm at that point where I'm about to go over the edge and y'all would hate me, I take the day off. Absolutely.
Kick you right out your seat.
Take the day off and do what? Sleep, go
all
to the
that.
gym, go to the spa.
Yes, all that. Have some me time. Sleep in late. Get caught up on some reading. You know, anything that makes you happy. For me, that's what it's all about. Do things that I love to do to put me back, to center me, to get me back to my happy place.
Just having a day to choose whatever you want to do.
Whatever I want, absolutely. Another thing that you can do, you know, I'm finding this a little bit more difficult lately, is to make a habit of taking a break every day. You know, sometimes in the workday we get so caught up. And next thing you know, we've been inside the building for 12 hours. We haven't looked up. We haven't taken a lunch break. We're just grinding. Make a habit. Make a deal with yourself. And understand that you are worth that 15 or 30-minute break, and go and use that time to rejuvenate and get yourself together.
Walk outside, get a little vitamin D. A 15-minute break outside will make a world of difference.
Yes, it does. It does. It really does.
See, and I feel for moms, because I think of moms and dads who are having to deal with children all day, or maybe, you know, it's been summer, you've had kids all day long, and you're having to work. So that's just a double. I don't know. It's just double the work, and so you get burned out so much easier at your home life and your work life, and you have no breathing space. So I find that a lot of people that I know, including myself, I meditate. Meditating is a really big deal for me, because even if I'm at work or I'm on the way to work and I'm really stressed out, I can take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to just listen to like a guided meditation, and that will take me away for a hot second, and I realize, okay, now I'm centered, now I can do what I need to do. Because you can't always take a day off of work, and you can't always take a whole weekend to yourself. Sometimes you have family members, kids, you've got everybody, mom, you know.
up, yeah.
work.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
so.
just sleep. If I can find the time, I'll just sleep.
Yeah, sleep.
That's how I
Sleep's good.
recharge. All right, well, coming up next, an employee-customer encounter at a Sephora goes viral. Find out what set the internet on fire with this one next.
Next, Ellen.